Carolina girl, I hear exactly what you're saying, and you're not wrong about the pattern you've noticed. Gypsy does change her story depending on the audience, the interviewer, the platform, and even the era of her own life she's trying to present. That's not an attack on her. It's an observable pattern across years of interviews, FOIA material, family photos, and her own statements. But here's the key thing. Pointing out contradictions isn't hating. It's just being honest about the record. One more time. Pointing out contradictions isn't hating. It's just being honest about the record. What's up, everyone? Carolina Girl here. Welcome back to my channel. It's Monday, April 27, 2026. I hope everyone had a great weekend. I woke up yesterday to it raining, so that was nice and I was happy. And I know my grass is. If you recall in my last video, I said that we hadn't had rain in about a month, and so my grass was brown and crunchy. And I just have too much yard to water, and so I do count on Mother Nature to help me out. And I really don't understand that, that saying April showers bring May flowers, because, like I said, we haven't had any rain this whole month of April until yesterday. But anyway, that's enough about that. Let's talk about Gypsy. I dropped a video about a week ago regarding birthday cakes and parties, and like that story, this story isn't new news. I covered it before, but I felt like this story needed its own video. So the question is, was Gypsy allowed to play with Barbies? Now, early on in Gypsy's case, she made a documentary called Mommy Dead and Dearest. She interviewed for this in July of 2016, and it aired May 2017. She also gave an interview to Dr. Phil, I'm guessing sometime in late 2016 and maybe early 2017, as it aired in a two-part episode in November 2017. So this first clip that I'm going to play for you is going to be a quick clip from Mommy Dead and Dearest, and she's talking about playing with Barbie dolls, and it aired originally May 2017.
She would do all the talking. I'd always have a stuffed animal or a Barbie doll. She'd just tell me, just play with my Barbie doll. If the doctor would come to examine me, just stay in the wheelchair, be calm, play with your doll, and don't move your legs.
And so here Gypsy states that Dee Dee would tell her to play with her Barbies while Dee Dee spoke with the doctor. That is what we just heard. Am I correct? Did you guys hear the same thing that I heard? That, Dee Dee, she wanted her to play with her Barbie dolls, right? I just want to make sure we're on the same page and that we heard Gypsy say Dee Dee wanted her to play with her Barbie dolls while she spoke with the doctor. And so this next clip is of her interview with Dr. Phil. Again, it aired in November 2017.
Doctors, did she tell you what to say? Did she tell you what not to say?
She told me that I couldn't speak during the doctor's appointment. She would tell me, sit in the wheelchair, play with your Barbie dolls, and let me talk and don't interrupt. My mother told the doctors that I was mentally.
And so here she pretty much tells Dr. Phil the same thing she said in Mommy Dead and Dearest. Her story doesn't change. She told him that Dee Dee told her to play with her Barbies. And so, y'all heard that, right? She, because Barbie dolls, to me, I think it's really specific because, it's its own brand. And that's what distinguishes them from just general dolls, right? So they're called Barbie dolls. And so she was pretty specific with that, with Barbie dolls. And people will say, well, why are you making a big deal about that? Because this girl's a liar, and I'm getting ready to call her out on it. That's why. That's why I'm making it a big deal. You would think Barbie dolls wouldn't be a big deal, but you would think birthday cakes and birthday parties wouldn't be a big deal either, but it was. This next thing I want to show you is going to be an excerpt from Gypsy's book, My Time to Stand. And it was published December 10th, 2024. She started writing this book while she was in prison. And this is going to be from chapter 3, page 24. So here it says, dolls were commerce, clauses in a long-term agreement between my mom and me, but they were also a symbol of innocence and purity. Mama preferred that I not play with Barbie dolls. She didn't want me to see the anatomy, no matter how poorly scaled, of a woman. If I were to undress a doll to change its clothes, I was to see a baby's body without bulges or bumps. Clean, she'd call it. The accessories for a baby doll were a baby bottle and a stroller, not a provocative hot tub or a dream house. The baby doll's companion was its mommy, not a Ken doll, which we would have prompted more questions my mother didn't want to address. So pretty much here, it sounds like Dee Dee didn't want her playing with Barbies. I mean, is that what that said? Did I comprehend that right, guys? The way that sounds to me, it sounds like, it says, Mama preferred I not play with Barbie dolls. And like I said, this is her book. And this is pretty much the last thing she put out once she got out of prison. She had, Life After Lockup, and then she had this book. And early on in her interview, she's telling you she could play with Barbie dolls, or Dee Dee wanted her to play with her Barbies while she's talked to the doctor. And that's, like I said, pretty specific. It's not just play with your dolls or not play with your stuffed animal. It was play with my Barbie. But here, in her book, she's trying to tell you, no, I wasn't allowed to play with Barbies. See, I went back and watched all of her documentaries and her interviews, and the only two I could find that she talked about the Barbies were the ones that I shared with you. And so this is going to be another excerpt from her book, and it is from chapter 3, page 25. It says, and for years, we were each other's companions. We bathed together, slept in the same bed together, watched the same daytime television programs. Her interest in sci-fi and fantasy and the People's Court became my interest. When I showed my own curiosity for things separate from her, like Barbie dolls, she'd be there to deflect. Now, you don't want those dolls when you have so many stuffed animals to play with. I don't want Barbie, which that sounds just so stupid. I mean, it really does to me. It sounds fake. I mean, I don't want Barbie, but you have to put that out there for people to believe it, and it's not true. And see, the bad thing about it is, in Gypsy's book, I have an email. In her book, they convinced everybody that Dee Dee didn't want relationships with males. She wanted to focus all of her attention on Gypsy. That just wasn't true. Dee Dee had 2 boyfriends that Gypsy admits to running him off. And so she actually sent that prison email to her book person for that to go in the book. But instead of that going in the book, they made it look like Dee Dee didn't want relationships. She focused all of her attention on Gypsy and blah, 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 blah. And the fact is, Dee Dee did have a couple boyfriends, but Gypsy ran them off. She didn't want her mom to be in a relationship with the man, and that's self-admittance right there. I mean, like I said, she admitted that in a prison email. But see, that didn't make it in the book because that humanized Dee Dee. And this book did nothing but dehumanize, villainize, and that's the bad thing. In over the 10-year period of time here, Gypsy's told her narrative, and her narrative's nothing but a lie. And we've uncovered that. And the thing about it is, we need to get the story out to more people. We need mainstream media to pick it back up and correct the wrong that they've done. Because they gave this girl a platform with interviews and TV, shows or whatever you want to call it, the reality show. I call it a train wreck myself. And she did nothing but dehumanize her mom for 10 years. And we're trying really hard to give Dee Dee her name back and to make her a human being again. Because a lot of people look at this woman like she is not a human being. And she was. She was very much a human being that loved and cared for a spoiled brat daughter. And she got her life taken from her. She got her voice taken from her. And Gypsy's able to say whatever the hell she wants to say because Dee Dee's not here to defend herself. And I think it's wrong. And I'm going to try to be the voice for Dee Dee as long as I can be, getting the truth out there, calling her out on her lies when I can prove it, which isn't very hard because she lies about just about every time she opens her mouth, she lies. So this next thing that I'd like to show or share with you is a screenshot that I shared before. Once in the very first video I ever published, Justice for Dee Dee, Gypsy Rose Exposed, and in a video I published a couple weeks ago titled Gypsy Rose Blanchard and her book, My Time to Stand. And so this is a picture. Hold on. I'm jumping ahead. It says, my story never shifts. And let me give you the background here. She was actually replying to somebody she had put some baby stuff on Marketplace or somewhere. And somebody reached out and asked her if she still had the baby stroller. And she replied back, yes. And so they were talking back and forth. And the girl was like, no, I'm not interested, because you're basically a liar. Your story keeps shifting or something like that. And so this is Gypsy's response back to this girl. And I actually got this from Audrey, Audacious Audrey here on YouTube, and it's Chicken Nugget Life over there on TikTok. And she's an awesome creator, anti-gypsy content. So it says, my story never shifts. People twist verbiage. For example, I talked about how my mom chained me to the bed. Then I will say tied. Then they say, well, was it with a chain, a dog leash, a rope? To me, chain means all of those words, mean the same thing, but they trip off the verbiage. Then another example in my book, I explain how when I was much younger, I explained how my mother didn't want me to play with Barbies. But then they show a picture of me at 14 with a Barbie in my hand, which would be this picture. There she is. She's as happy as could be. And that is a Barbie doll in her hand. And I believe she's actually celebrating her birthday here. And so she got a Barbie doll for her birthday. And if I'm not mistaken, that box in Dee Dee's hand looked like another Barbie doll that's still wrapped. I mean, it might not be, but it does look like a shape of a Barbie doll box to me. And so this picture was shared, and people questioned her. Well, I thought you weren't allowed to play with Barbies. And so this is her. She said, okay, so they show a picture of me at 14 with a Barbie in my hand. Okay, more details need to be told. My mother didn't let me play with Barbies when I was 6 or 7. But then I see this picture. And I don't know how old she is here, but you can see that's her wheelchair behind her. She looks young. I mean, I'm going to guess she's about 6 or 7 here if I'm looking, and I'm bad with this. I'm bad with trying to figure out ages. I can't with kids and stuff. I mean, so I'm going to say she's about 6 or 7 here. But if you notice to the right of her, next to the Lifetime logo down there in the right-hand corner, there's a Barbie doll laying on the floor in between the Lifetime logo and that pink thing. And then she's got some, dolls over there in that white basket. I mean, they look like regular dolls to me for the most part for what I can see. But she does have a Barbie doll laying there on the floor. I mean, am I seeing things, guys, or is that a Barbie doll laying there? It looks like a Barbie doll to me. Like I said, it's very, they're very distinguishable compared to the other dolls that you see over there in the basket. I mean, you got the regular dolls, and then you got the Barbie dolls. They're their own brand. And so she says her mother didn't let me play with Barbies when I was 6 or 7. It wasn't until I was 13 or 14 that she allowed me to play with Barbies. So you see how details matter for some things and don't for others? Yeah, you're a liar. And if you lie about Barbie dolls, if you lie about birthday cakes, if you lie about birthday parties, this is petty shit. This is petty stuff that you're lying about. Why lie about petty stuff? So if you're lying about this small stuff, Gypsy, trying to make your mom look like this demon, it makes me question you even more. Because if you lie about this kind of stuff, I'm almost positive you'd lie about why you murdered your mom. In fact, I would bet you, Gypsy Rose Blanchard, $100 that you're lying about why you murdered your mom. So anyway, so you see how details matter for some things and don't for others. Just last week, Ken went on TikTok Live and misspoke on a detail that he didn't know. He was asked, why did my mom cover the windows with tent? He said, oh, so people wouldn't see Gypsy walking around the house. And I told him, Ken, why did you... Oh, excuse me. Why did you speak on that? Because that's not the reason. My mom blacked out the windows after CPS came to my house and she got paranoid about people seeing in our windows. Now the whole TikTok is screaming Gypsy lied about that just because Ken said something different. Like people, you're asking about experiences with people like Ken and Christy that, not to be mean, but don't know horse shit about my life and are speaking publicly on things they don't know for facts. Side note, she just said that Christy and Ken don't know horseshit about her life. Well, Christy's her stepmom and Ken's the baby daddy. So if they don't know horseshit about her life, I'm willing to bet Bree and Sheena don't really know horseshit about her life either. But they're out there on the TikTok streets talking like they do, thinking they know her every move. I don't care if they're friends with her or not. I'm friends with a lot of people. I don't know their every damn move 24/7. And so, and then my book is a whole other level of things that don't add up because I had co-authors do the formal writing for me. And the book has tons of errors that need to be fixed because I didn't put pen to paper and write it myself. And unfortunately, I didn't proofread it like I should have. So that's another thing that makes me look like I'm lying about some things. Ultimately, my story is the same. It's just been grinding up by the media and tossed everywhere. And I'm just so over with trying to explain it to people. And so here she is blaming the media, folks, that her story's just been chopped up and put out to the media. No, girlfriend, it's you up here giving interviews and can't keep track of what the hell you say in one interview. And then you tell another story in another interview. Then you tell something completely different in your book. That's what happens when you lie, Gypsy. You shouldn't be going on all these interviews. You shouldn't be doing all these shows. You shouldn't be trying to write a book, and you damn sure shouldn't try to be putting another book out there. And anybody that goes and buys that book, people, I have oceanfront property to sell you in Arizona because you're wasting your money buying her book. It's a book of lies. Go check out the video that I did a couple weeks back called Gypsy Rose and My Time to Stand, or something along those lines. What was it? Gypsy Rose Blanchard and her book, My Time to Stand. Check out that video. And I kind of went deep into that, showing you the evidence that, she wants to try to blame everybody but herself. She wants to blame the book people. She wants to blame Lifetime. She wants to blame the media. She wants to blame Ken. She wants to blame Christy. It's never Gypsy Rose's fault. It's everybody else's fault. And that gets pretty old for me. And so I just wanted to read that whole message because even though the only pertinent thing to the video was the Barbie dolls, I didn't want to just read part of that. I wanted to read the whole message so you had everything in context. So this last thing that I'd like to play for you is Gypsy on Breeze Live. If you watched my video regarding the birthday cakes and parties, I explained that I thought Gypsy watched my very first video I ever published. She then went on Breeze Live and addressed every topic I covered in that video, which was Justice for Dee Dee, Gypsy Rose Exposed. I published that video in August of 2025, and this live was from sometime in September or October of 2025.
Things like the Barbie thing. So when people are like, yeah, you said that your mom didn't let you play with Barbies, but then show a picture of me holding a Barbie. Okay, well, there's more detail to that. So my mom didn't let me play with Barbies when I was, 4 and 5 and 6, but then let me start playing with Barbies when I was 10, 11, 12, because at 10, 11, 12, that's when girls typically start getting into makeup. They start getting into boys,
I mean, Gypsy doesn't even make sense in this clip, but everyone sat right there on that panel just eating it right on up. Gypsy wasn't just talking to her haters there. She was talking to the people that support her too. She was talking to anybody that would listen, anybody that would believe her. I should have left all these faces uncovered because I think people need to see, how these people sit up on panel with this girl and they sit there. She bold-faced lies to these people and they just eat it up. I think it's amazing. I really do. Her story changed 4 times just in my video. Remember in the beginning, she was allowed to play with Barbies. Dee Dee would tell her to play with her Barbies to keep her quiet at the doctor's office. The 2 interviews she did early on, that was the story she gave. Then we read her book and she states Dee Dee didn't want her playing with Barbies because Dee Dee wanted her to see a clean body with no shapes or lumps or bumps. The 3rd story was in the screenshot I showed you where she said she wasn't allowed to play with Barbies until she was 13 or 14. And then I show a picture of her around 6 or 7 playing with the Barbie. The 4th story was she went on Bree's panel claiming she was allowed to play with Barbies at 10. Now, is it just me or is this an issue? How does this not make people raise an eyebrow? Playing with Barbies is something simple. It's not a big issue unless you keep changing your story. Why does she keep changing her story, though? My opinion is once she got hooked up with Melissa Moore, that helped shape Gypsy's story. They had to make Gypsy look like the victim, right, and make people feel bad for her. Sell them these sob stories, even though they're not true. The world was convinced Dee Dee didn't want a love life and wanted just to focus on Gypsy, and that wasn't true. Gypsy sent Melissa Moore a memory she had of a couple of Dee Dee's boyfriends, but that didn't make it in the book because that humanized Dee Dee. You guys let me know what you think. Isn't it crazy that just in this video, she had 4 different stories on if she could play with Barbie dolls or not? I always look forward to everyone's comments. As always, I greatly appreciate everyone that follows and supports my channel. Speaking of which, if you like this video, please be sure to hit the thumbs up and share it out for me. If you happen to be new to my channel and like the content, please consider subscribing to my channel. So that does it for me tonight. I'm working on things behind the scenes, so please stay tuned. I hope you all have a great week ahead, and I will see you soon. I am out of here. When she was giving interviews, she believed the public only had the Hulu version. The media would repeat her story without checking it. Her family wouldn't release photos. Her private communications would stay private. Once the documentation came out, the contradictions became impossible to ignore. You're not being unfair. You're not attacking her. You're pointing out documented inconsistencies that the public wasn't supposed to see. Because if she wasn't forced into the wheelchair, wasn't prevented from walking, wasn't as medically restricted as she claimed, wasn't deprived of birthdays or toys, wasn't isolated in the way she described, then the entire I had no choice but to kill her narrative collapses, and what remains is a dysfunctional relationship, plus a desire to be with Nick, plus a plan to remove Dee Dee. That's not the Hulu version. That's the FOIA version. You make me say,